That's all you can really say about this race. Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Jett. Welcome back to the episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop. This is going to be a very short video since really there's barely anything to talk about NASCAR at Sonoma. Usually Sonoma isn't the most entertaining racetrack. It's actually quite one of the dullest, even though it may be fun to drive on. In terms of entertainment perspective, usually not much happens, and this was one of those races. Martin Truex Jr. dominated, so that gives you an idea that this race wasn't good. Because 95% of the races that Truex dominates, the race is just not good. Now I know people are probably saying, well, anytime a driver dominates, the racing is bad, but that's not always the case. But anytime Truex is out in front, most likely the race is gonna suck, and this race was just not good. Let's talk about Toyota as a whole for a second, because it's such a contrast. Last year, Toyota was garbage on the road courses. This year, they've been on it. 2 road courses in, and they've won both of them. Reddick at Coda, now today with Truex. But it started out with Truex's teammate, Denny Hamlin, seemingly to many, had the fastest car. He started on pole, led early on. Now, this race was entertaining a little bit from a strategic perspective. Remember, this is the first time, or the second time this year, we're having 0 stage breaks. Only on road courses, no stage breaks. So because of that, there was a little bit of interesting strategy that took place in this race. You saw near the end of stage 1, you saw drivers, mainly the drivers in the top 10, stay out to get those stage points, while other drivers chose to pit to set up for the race much later on. They were going for the win, not so much stage points. Drivers like Larson and Elliott, they pitted earlier around lap 20, lap 21, while drivers like Hamlin, Truex, and those guys stayed out. Elliott was able to gamble on that, and it actually worked in his favor, as he would come out third at the pit road cycle, while Truex and Hamlin stayed out first and second. And by staying out, I meant they were still ahead first and second place after pit stop. So you had Hamlin, Truex, and Elliott the top 3. So Hamlin won stage 1. Nothing real much happened there until lap 33. Now after stage 1, and it seemed as though after that first green flag pit stop, Truex's car came to life. They were way faster than Hamlin, and it didn't take long for Truex to eat away at Hamlin's lead. On lap 33, was able to get by him with ease and drive off. But then a caution came out in the middle of a pit cycle. And I got this photo from Jeff Gluck that posted this of the tire on pit road. And I don't know. Some people are very controversial on that one. Some say that it's just NASCAR trying to throw a caution just to throw a caution. Some say it was necessary. And I can understand both sides, because at Sonoma, there's a pit wall between the actual pit road and the racetrack. So a crew guy could have gone out on the racetrack and get that tire as long as there was no cars coming on a pit road. At the same time, I understand NASCAR from a safety perspective. You don't want a tire in the middle of the racetrack, and you don't want your crew guys going out onto an active pit road. Even though there were no cars in it, it's still an active pit road. It's still during a race. So I can understand both sides. So I can understand why some people feel that NASCAR didn't need to throw the caution, and I could understand why some people felt that NASCAR did need to throw the caution. Regardless, it did shake a lot of things up in the running order, as that took place in the middle of a pit cycle. So Kyle Busch and Joey Logano were the race leaders at the moment of caution, while Truex and Hamlin, on the other hand, they were stuck outside the top 10. Truex in 10th and Hamlin was in 12th or 13th after he had a bad pit stop already on top of that caution. We got back to green flag racing, and Kyle Busch would go on to win stage 2, and it was at that time where Kyle Busch, who had a top 10 car, didn't have a race winning car, all of a sudden had a potential contender. He was a potential contender depending on how far back Truex was. Now I say depending because it didn't take long. Truex drove his way up towards the field, and when 42 laps ago was on Kyle Busch's bumper, and again, just like how he got by Denny Hamlin, got by Kyle Busch with ease. And it was at that time where everybody knew that, okay, Truex got the fastest car, so the main goal is to try and do anything that he doesn't do. And with Sonoma being already difficult to pass, if you're going to do that, you had to do it on pit road. So you had drivers like McDowell, drivers like Buescher, you had a lot of drivers that were within reach of Truex just to try anything, try to do something to get ahead of Truex and hold him back, because he had the fastest car by far out of anybody. But luckily, some hope would take place, and that would be thanks to Denny Hamlin. 20 laps ago, Hamlin made a critical human error. hits the inside wall right before the start finish line, bounces off, then hits the outside wall and spins back towards the inside wall for the caution, right with suspension damage, you know, toe link broken and all that stuff. Took his car to the garage, and he would finish dead last in a 36th position. The last time Denny Hamlin finished dead last, you have to go all the way back, I believe, to Kentucky back in 2014, nearly 10 years. So like I said, with Truex winning everything, you want to beat him, do whatever he doesn't do. So you had drivers like Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, all stay out while everybody else pitted for 4 tires. And with Sonoma, track position, it was extremely key. So you could stay out ahead. You weren't going to win, but you could maybe salvage a much better position if you were to just follow everybody else. But again, Truex was just too strong. Very quickly, right after the restart, drove his way up towards the field, got to the back end of Chase Elliott, and was able to get by him, as well as Kyle Busch. So Kyle Busch and Truex both got by Chase Elliott to go into first and second place. Elliott falls back to third, and Kyle Busch, for a little bit, was actually able to hold on to Truex, was able to keep him within reach. And it may as though there was a point in time where, at least in my opinion, I thought Busch may have a chance to do something, but he didn't. Near the end, Truex just opened up that gap to multiple seconds, and there was nothing else that anybody could do. Truex goes on to win at Sonoma for his 4th Sonoma victory, his 2nd win of 2023, and his 33rd Cup Series win of his career. And he led more than about half of the race in this one, led 51 of the 110 laps. Here's a look at the race results here. So Martin Truex Jr. wins, Kyle Busch in second. That 8 team also is another team that has been rolling on to the summer. Joe Logano third. Chris Buescher, another top 10 finish once again. He has become quite the road course racer. Chase Elliott, in his first road course race this season, comes home in the 5th position. AJ Allmendinger, we know how good he is on the road courses, started 5th place, ends up in 6th, top 10 all race long. 7th, Michael McDowell, good run for him. Kyle Larson in 8th, Christopher Bell 9th, and Ross Chastain the top 10. Kevin Harvick with the quiet 11th place run. Stenhouse, a solid 12th place finish for him, as well as Ryan Preece. Hendrick drivers, Byron and Bowman rounds at the top 15. Then he got Brad Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, Ty Gibbs. He was up front, up in the top 10 for a good first half of the race, falls back to 18th, and then Austin Dillon, Corey LaJoie, the top 20. Daniel Suarez just had a horrible day in 22nd, just showed zero speed at all. Todd Gillen, 24th, Austin Cindric, Grant Enfinger replaced it for Noah Gragson in 26th, and then Eric Almirola, his teammate Chase Briscoe, just inside the top 30. Ryan Blaney in 31st, he spun multiple times in the final 4 or 5 laps of the race, as well as Eric Jones, who finishes in 32nd. He also spun a lot. Tyler Reddick, he finished 33rd, but he had an interesting finish to his race. So he was up in front on the final restart with Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney that stayed out. Well, and a jam session happened in turn 11 just after the restart, and it flattened a left front tire. Now, this happened right after turn 11. Meaning he'd have to go the entire way around the racetrack on 3 tires. Reddick said, nope, I'm not doing that. So he basically just went backwards. So he comes off of turn 11 and then decides just to make a right-hander, cut through turn 11 to come back on the pit road. It was a 1000 IQ level play, but yet you knew that there's no way NASCAR is going to let this slide. Even though Reddick was dead last, that you can't do that. And NASCAR did give him a pass-through penalty, which was completely meaningless since he was already the last car, or one of the last cars on the lead lap there. So it was completely meaningless. But I think it did help his car, like it saved his car, because you have to travel around Sonoma on 3 wheels in the next-gen car. That is torture. And it would have made his day a lot worse had he stayed out and done the entire lap instead of just cutting through the racetrack and go back on the pit road. That was quite funny to see Tyler Reddick do. But yeah, he comes home in the 33rd position, and then you see Denny Hamlin rounds out the field. Started first, ends up dead last. So my thoughts on this race, really nothing much else. There's really nothing much to talk about. I mean, this race was your typical Sonoma race. It wasn't, it wasn't all that. It had some interesting strategy, a little bit, but I mean, Truex was just unbeatable, and there was not much passing going on. And people saying this is what happens when you get rid of stage breaks. No, you can keep it stage caution free. I would much rather have that than, more than likely, if you would have kept stage cautions, it would have just been complete chaos. I'd much rather still have no stage cautions. I mean, look at Coda. Coda was awesome without stage caution. It's just the ending was quite trash, but this is more or less a track issue. I mean, Sonoma hasn't been an entertaining racetrack. It hasn't been for a long time. So it was kind of like, you know, what were you expecting? You weren't expecting much. I thought this was just your typical Sonoma race. It was meh. I don't know. What would I critique meh for Sonoma? 5, 6 out of 10. It was meh. It wasn't anything special. Now, there is one good thing I can take away from this race, and that this was Fox's final race. Thank you, God. We don't have to do a Fox anymore. NBC's back in 2 weeks because NASCAR is an off week this time around. 2 weeks, NBC's back. I'm so excited for it. Once again, Fox and their shenanigans. Talk about one thing, showing something different, you know, and I understand the commercials. They can't control that, but still was very annoying. And when they come back from commercial again, they don't do a good job of letting you know of everything that happened, you know, once you got back from commercial. You still miss things that it's like, wait a minute, when did that happen? Wait a minute, when did this happen? You know, it's just typical Fox. So I'm so glad that they're done. Even though they still got Truex, at least for Cup and Xfinity, they're done with that. We got NBC back in Nashville. Super excited for that. As for the drivers, I mean, again, nothing really much to say. I mean, Toyota, they were just on it. I mean, Reddick showed great speed. The contenders that you expect on a road course showed up. McDowell showed speed. Allmendinger showed speed. Truex, I mean, we know how good Truex is on the road courses, and that 19 team, compared to where they were last year, complete 180. 3 wins if you count the Clash, and they've just been much more consistent, and it shows in the playoff grid. They are now the new points leader as NASCAR heads into the off weekend break. You know, to finish off the first half of the season, they are the new points leader, or the 19 team is. So then you got William Byron, Blaney, Busch, Bell. Hamlin gets 1 playoff point, so he gets that to his name for winning stage 1, as well as Kyle Busch for winning stage 2. And then you look at Ross Chastain, first one out, plus 173. Harvick 1 point behind, then Buescher and Keselowski. Bubba stays in the 15th spot, I should say, plus 26. And then Daniel Suarez gets overtaken by Alex Bowman to take over the final spot at the moment in the playoffs. So Suarez, Gibbs, McDowell, and Allmendinger are the first 4 outs. So yeah, that 19 team is clicking. That 8 team is clicking. Toyotas, you know, on their road courses, they're clicking this year. I was quite surprised to see, you know, some of the drivers that you expect. A driver like Chase Briscoe. I thought I expected more from Briscoe because we know how good he can be on road courses. So I expected a lot more from Briscoe, but you saw there, I mean, he was nowhere to be found. I mean, Priest did much better than him, and you compare Priest to Briscoe on road courses, you would put your money on Briscoe, but yeah, I understand he doesn't have his crew chief, but still, they were way off. Also, some of the other drivers, like Larson, he had a moment where he was making his way up towards the field early on, but he also wasn't really a factor, even for a top 5. Outside of Chase Elliott, who had pit strategy to help him stay up front, you know, it was quite surprising to see, you know, Elliott and Larson didn't show an ounce of that potential race-winning speed like what Kyle Busch had. You expect that from a team like HMS and from those 2 drivers at a track like Sonoma, where they have such great success, especially in recent years. This one was interesting. It was a Toyota race because you had Gibbs, you had Reddick, you had Hamlin and Truex. They were all running strong early on, and then you had the rest. It was quite an interesting race if you look at in terms of the drivers that were in contention compared to the drivers that you expect to be in contention. But yeah, that's nothing much else to say about this race. Martin Truex, masterclass at Sonoma. Wonderful drive from him. And yeah, I mean, that 19 team also, like I said, they're another team clicking as we head into the summer. But that's going to be it for a week. You're not going to see an episode of MDK Racing Victor Stop for at least 1 week. We'll be back for Nashville, although I'll be at a different room because I'll explain that in that video. But yeah, thank y'all so much for watching. Enjoy the week off. Until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Thank you so much for watching. Congratulations to Martin Truex Jr., your winner at Sonoma.